Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. I always have to, first of all, great to be here at A&M in College Station. Good to be back. This is my 27th trip here, and it's always great to see folks that I haven't seen in a while, and retirees, and those that come back to share their experiences with us. It's a fantastic opportunity for all of us, and I'm very, very glad to be here and be a part of it. Now that all those folks who left did so, we can talk about them. Okay, so I don't know what they were leaving for, but you know, the group that started this morning is hit on something that, and one of the questions from the audience hit on something that I'm going to start with and I'm going to finish with today. Okay, and our executive director hit on it yesterday. Our executive director hit on it Monday as well. And that is the expectation of the agency as we go forward. The direction that this administration, this commission, previous administrations has set this agency on, with assistance from the legislature now. The legislature has come through and is beginning to, of course, address or continuing to address the needs of the agency as far as funding goes. We've got a very huge opportunity here in a few weeks to move the agency even further along, and the state further along as far as transportation development goes. The expectations of the public are tremendous. The expectations of the agency and the bar that we hold for ourselves is significant as well, and we have to deliver. Consultants have to deliver, we have to deliver, local governments, sponsors have to deliver, and I think we're set to do just that. A little bit about the Office of Public Involvement first before we get started here. We're a small office created several years ago to serve primarily as a in-house public involvement consultant to our districts. And we work with districts from the onset of projects and developing public involvement strategies all the way through the end of hearings on projects and meetings on projects as well. And we've worked very well with each and every district here in the state. It's good to be here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about engaging the public in project selection. You know, we talked about expectations a moment ago in-house as far as distribution of resources go. The public has an expectation of this agency. The public has an expectation of you as an official with the agency. Our mission, and I know we've got a group working on the changing the mission now, but right now, this is the agency's mission, to work with others. This is what public involvements, or the basic fundamental tenet of public involvement truly is working with the public, and we need to consider the public early, often, and in a transparent manner. And we're doing a very good job of that, I think. The origins of this office lie in a specific legislative issue from the mid-2000s in which the legislature was concerned about the culture of the agency in regards to the solicitation, the acceptance of public comments into our decision-making process. The legislature in 2011 passed a law that said that we are going to, number one, develop a policy that will guide the agency on public involvement. Secondly, we will actively seek to identify and modify techniques that reach the public in a way that's comfortable for the public. And then third, that we will readily accept public input into the decision-making process and let the public know what we have done with their comments. So that's a lot to get our arms around. Our commission in January of 2011 did their part on adopting a public involvement policy that guides the agency. Our current commission is well aware of this policy and supports it in total. Here's the first part of it. The agency will purposely involve the public in planning and project implementation by providing for early, continuous, transparent, and effective access to information and the decision-making process. This is the fundamental the fundamental part of our policy. We have to be undertaking the initiative to think about it, incorporate it into our project planning, and then execute in this manner. The policy goes on to say that TxDOT will regularly update our techniques, our strategies for reaching the public. And we've seen some very, very good examples of this around the state that I want to give, as I go through this presentation, I want to give a shout out to several districts who have done an exceptional job on this. And I guess I'd like to start perhaps with the El Paso district, for instance. They've got very significant projects out there that they have done, and I think there was a discussion yesterday even about their roundabout project, in which they developed 3D animated videos of the project and put them both into Spanish and English for the citizens of El Paso. An absolutely exceptional job in identifying the best practice necessary to reach the public. Keep this in mind as we're developing our projects. What are we doing well? I said we're doing a lot of things well. Here's a couple of areas that I'd like to start with as far as highlighting goes. There's really, in getting started on public involvement, there's two aspects of it that we need to be thinking about. All around accessibility and making the process accessible. Again, that's what the legislature expects, that's what our commission expects, that's what the public expects. Okay, there's two aspects to that. Creating awareness around our projects, and then making it easy for the public to participate. And if we are looking at opportunities or methods for getting public input into our decision-making process, these are the two basic fundamental elements of it. Now there's more after that, okay? But here's where we start. We're doing, around the state, we're doing a very good job on creating awareness. We are being creative. We are utilizing one-on-one communication, traditional communication. We're utilizing traditional and social media to solicit input or in awareness. We're also undertaking outside-the-box thinking on this. We're using everything from inserts and flyers to inform the public, email blasts, newsletters, all this that we in the consultant community have worked on before, and we're doing a very, very good job of it, and we've got some numbers that reflect that. The second part of this is something we need to think about a little bit here. Making it easy for the public to participate. Not everyone these days is willing to go out of their way to attend a 5:30 or 6 p.m. meeting somewhere. A lot of people commute from out of our metropolitan areas or into our metropolitan areas to work and then back home, okay? And not everyone is willing to stay in rush hour traffic to attend an event. We need to be thinking more creatively about how easy we are making it for the public to participate, okay? More districts are using online open houses and virtual events, which I think is great. We've seen some of this in the Fort Worth district. We've seen some in the Houston district as well, and we're doing a great job on that. We've got a couple of other examples, though. Not everything is addressed technology-wise. We've got, or can be addressed technology-wise. The Beaumont district, they had a project up off of US 190 near Martin Dice State Park, where they took the meeting to the park itself. Fantastic turnout for that very rural area of the state, and a great job that the district did on that. The Austin district, along with our RMA in Austin, took an open house to a strip mall near or adjacent to the project, okay, and manned it during the course of the day. So an example of, again, of us going to where the public is. And that's fundamentally needs to be a part of our process, our planning, and our challenge in meeting the expectations of the public. They expect us to do more. The public expects us to do more here. Another example on a construction aspect of public involvement, the Paris district on the Loy Lake Bridge project, a series of business open houses at various times during the day. In addition, efforts to take information directly to those businesses, and I think a tremendous success on the part of the districts there. So think about it. Think about this. We can create information. How do we make sure that we make it easy for the public to get to that information? And just one more quick thing. We, and the previous presentation might follow some of this. We can make our business very, very complex. I know we can. I've been watching it for a long time. We can make our business very, very complex, perhaps unnecessarily complex, okay? Some work was done for the agency several years ago by a university here in Texas that took a look at what TxDOT was doing public involvement-wise. They surveyed people who were leaving our meetings, and the #1 concern that the public had was that you and I are talking over their heads. Okay? So think about it when we're developing schematics, when we're developing fairly technical information, or quite technical information. It's not a dumbing down of this, okay? It's how do we ensure that the public who walks away from our meetings actually understand what it is we are doing, okay? And if we've done that, we have won, okay? Here's just a few examples of some of the things that OPI, along with the districts, have developed. The San Antonio district on a virtual open house. These are door flyers. We did a survey in a district a while back to get information on what the #1 source of information and understanding where a meeting or the availability of a public meeting, and changeable message sign was at the top. Fantastic. Keep in mind that that's available to us to use, and I'd like to see us use more of it, okay? But then some other examples as well of work we've done. Okay, so what are some of the challenges that we have as we are working towards meeting these high expectations of the agency? Keep in mind, it's not just because state law requires it. It's not just because our commission expects it, okay? But transparency builds trust. Keep that in mind. Trust is a essential factor of the success of our projects. Absolutely essential. The public's trust, the legislature's trust in what we're doing, our commission's trust in you, and the administration's trust in all of us, okay? We need to do a better job here of communicating successes in the public involvement realm. When we have projects in which we are modifying them based on public involvement, based on public input, okay, that really, and work with our PIOs on this as well, that really needs to be a fundamental part of the messaging on the entire program. You know, we are doing it in FAR and in Atlanta and in Amarillo and El Paso. We're doing this, okay? Document it. Make it a part of the story on the project, okay? That would be a challenge for us. Underserved and LEP, limited English proficiency populations, absolutely needs to be a fundamental part of the planning for our events and our involvement strategies, okay? This needs to be, even though the rules say, okay, we can take a look and determine whether things are, population groups are significant or not. I'm telling you, this needs to be an expectation of all of us as we develop documentation on our projects, as we develop presentations on our projects. We need to be focused on this, okay? Be transparent about what we can and cannot do. This is again, coming back to the trust issue and the public's trust of the agency. This is absolutely critical to ensuring that the public not only believes in us, but that we are successful in what we do. Again, we've talked about use of online tools. We need to continue to do that, okay, and work hard at it. You've got a resource here with not only my office, but the technology aspects of the agency to support you and the districts in doing this. Let's do it. Let's make sure we are utilizing all of the tools and techniques that are available to us. Together we can do that. And then one thing, and I want to drive this point home based on something that I saw on a slide a moment ago. We need to keep in mind that our projects are developed over very lengthy time frames. Okay, we've got projects that will be going to contract shortly that began in the mid-90s or maybe even earlier. Okay, we have to understand that the elected community doesn't think necessarily in terms of 10-year project development, 15-year project development, and we need to make sure, whether that's the leadership of districts down to TPDs, area offices, area engineers, all of us need to make sure that we are keeping our elected officials well informed on what we are doing and make them a part of the outreach on our projects. Okay. In continuing to talk about where we as an agency need to be heading, I want to start here with the first part of our commission's policy for us. We have to be deliberate, we have to be purposeful as we seek public input on our projects. Okay? The very first step is the conversation that we're having now, and districts across the across the state are doing it and are very successful in it. But if we're not spending the time, the resources, the capital up front to be thinking about how we're going to inform the public, how we're going to involve the public, then we're missing the boat here. Okay? So have the conversation. Think of the strategy for outreach. Build your public involvement plan. Think about it. Okay? Who's doing what? How are we going to be reaching communities? Determine who your community is. Okay? Make a community assessment. Understand who our users of the system are, who we need to be reaching. Make sure we identify the appropriate technique with that community. And again, that's where we here in OPI can help and would be glad to. Again, benefits to the agency, improves public trust, which we've talked about earlier. I'm going to close in a moment. Coming back on that, and we need to make sure that we're keeping our district administration or central administration and commission with the input necessary to ensure that they are prioritizing. I want to talk about a few efforts very quickly of some of our districts and how successful that they are. And again, we've got great successes all over the state. I think we're going to hear from Waco here in just a moment about the great job they've done there, and this list could go on and on. But I want to pick a couple here. In Abilene, we've got an effort on US 8384, primarily an in-house effort in which we have methodically and patiently, I think, gone out and done an exceptional job of getting input and comments on our projects, where we've got hundreds of people attending the stakeholder and open houses that the district is putting together, and we're getting real comments that are guiding the effort. Up in Wichita Falls on I-35, an absolutely impeccable job of outreach, with the very first statement being on that project is that they wanted to make sure there was not a soul along that project who could say later on they didn't know anything about it. Okay, so the district and we work closely with the district, developed multiple strategies for ensuring that we met that goal as a part of the project. The FAR district on State Highway 68. A very good job of getting input from the public. Small stakeholder groups that are very vocal, listening, and then addressing changes in the project as we go forward. The Lufkin district on I-69 up in Nacogdoches, again, turned it over basically, if you wanted to look at it that way, to the public to decide what they wanted to do on something. Okay? And then the district is taking that information and running with it. Same thing on the Lubbock Outer Route, a project around the city in which community input started with forming of a stakeholder group, and then going back out to the public in an effort that really, truly has been an eye-opener for us and a very, very well done project. The Fort Worth district is seeking, and this is something that I'd like to see catch on elsewhere, has undertaken a couple of workshops with local government officials to make sure they understand the environmental process, public involvement, and how they can help us in delivering projects. So great job all over. Okay, very quickly, how can we help you? Again, we are here to serve you, the districts. We will develop your programs early. We'll be involved in your outreach meetings to whatever extent that we can. We will keep us honest on the public-friendly language. That is a part of our job. We'll support you in the meetings, limited English proficiency guidance, and then, of course, support with our branding and PI templates. Okay. In closing, I wanted to just say a couple of things here. The focus of the public involvement efforts of the agency truly need to be on the outcome of what we are doing. Okay? I know it is important that we throw parties and people come. It's important that we have 100 people at a meeting. It's important that we have 600 comments on a project. It is absolutely important that we do that. But we need to be thinking about the outcome of what it is we are doing. Is the project any more successful, okay, than it would be otherwise? And I would challenge you that public involvement, getting the public's input on our projects, incorporating to whatever extent we can those comments, and then letting the public know and understand what we have done is absolutely critical to the success of the agency's success of projects and the success of the agency as far as instilling public trust in what we are all doing. Okay? And if all else fails after all of that, we'll be glad to help out. All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.